we're doing it. Let's see. Oh, yep. Looks like I'm live. Okay. Greetings, Stuart. Welcome to Begrudging Book Club. I'm still getting my life together here. So that is not it. Oh, Martin, Sarah, Iker. Hi, everybody. Alright. The time is nigh. Let's do it. Sorry, the overhead lights kill me, so I'm rocking my toxic crown today to help block the light from blinding me. Greetings, Miles. Welcome to Begrudging Book Club. Let's see, where are my cards? They're over here. I hope everybody's had a good week. I've been getting more ponanigans, so I definitely do think we're gonna have to turn this into a monthly, once a month, or maybe once every other month, or I don't know, as they come in. I had half a mind to do back-to-back ponanigans, since I didn't get to read wine, and I don't know, it just feels circle jerky starting the whole thing with my piece, but it's fine. We're going to read The Department of Decommissioned Platitudes, which is my ponanigan, and then hopefully my setup will do what I want it to do, and I can switch the screen over and we'll read something from Poe. I think maybe Bernice. I don't know. Really, it depends on how much time we have after I'm done reading and how I'm feeling, where we're going to go. Because I know Bernice is kind of shorter and it's Dead Lady vibes. So why not? All right. Let's get everyone their cards, shall we? First up, you, Stuart. You're first here. You've got Soothe. Pet something soft. Bonus if it whines, purrs, or forgives you. And after Stuart, we've got Martin. Let's see what the cards have for you, Martin. You've got boundaries. Say it twice if they flinch. Practice your echo. That one's one of my favorites just because it's one of the more aggressive cards. And it just reminds you to, stick up for yourself. Or draw a line for yourself. Next up, we've got Sorrow. You've got Smile vaguely. It confuses people. Mystique over energy. And we've definitely drawn that one a few times before, so we know this is not you'd be so much prettier if you'd smile. Just fuck that noise. Okay. After Sarah, we've got Iker, my girl, with her potatoes over there. I can't wait. She said she made some shepherd's pie. I think this one's perfect for you tonight, Iker. You've got Soothe. Pretend stillness is strategy. Nap accordingly, my love. After Icker, we've got Miles. Let's see what you've got. Ha! Miles, you've got hydrate. Moisture, because decomposition shouldn't start early. Add lemon if you crave the illusion of control. And I see some new faces, so just in case this is your first time and you don't know, after book club, I will post everybody's cards. And I do try and keep up with everything so I can tag people, but it doesn't always happen. But when I do the repost, there'll be screenshots, or not screenshots, I like lay them all out. And you can save your card, keep your vibe with you. Okay. So I just did Miles. Pulling them divinations. Yeah, they're not tarot, but they like to pretend. Ooh, next up we've got a mysterious one person. Ooh, don't know who you are, but you get a vibe too. Chaos mitigation. Gracefully disengage. Dramatically remain unbothered. Oscar-worthy composure. And that's another one, just, you don't have to get worked up. You can totally peace out. There's another card in the deck where it's like, Irish exit, global peace. Facts. We've got Tara. I finally read your Ponanigan. You doubled up on the Ponanigans, and it's so funny. We're definitely going to read it. It's about a turd and a corn kernel. And it is beautiful. Like, it's amazing. It's hilarious, but there's still, like, some real begrudgingly grateful stuff in there. So, Tara, this one doesn't necessarily fit you, but I heard you've been, somebody's poking at the bear, so maybe you should be the condensation you wish to see. Leave poetic puddles. And I think I said this before, like, when I do another run, I don't know if it'll be the second production run. Actually, I might be able to. When we finally get to 100 pre-orders and I do my second production run, maybe I'll change this to, like, poetic puddles. That's what we're going to do here. So that was Tara. Tainted Quill, my new lovely lady friend. I met her at Stefan's karaoke, and she's a fellow theater girly, and I love it, and she has a beautiful voice, so that was fun too. So let's get you your vibe for tonight. You've got Soothe. You cannot pour from an empty cup, but you can sip dramatically. Let that be enough. Next up, Amber. You made it to book club. Let's get you your card, girly. Ooh, boundaries. No is a boundary, not a biography. Keep it short. And it can be as short as just the fucking no. Let's see. We've got an Andrea. What do you got? Move. Trip with purpose. Blame gravity, not grace. Just because you trip doesn't mean you can't make it useful. It's kind of like the other one we have, like failure has range. Like the range of that is also a new success that you just didn't see yet. Let's see. We've got an Esteban. You've got Soothe. Soften, but do not dissolve. Warm lighting optional. Yes, Tara, Wendy did send me a message. She said something about having to go into town. So, good for her. We're starting with the Department of Decommissioned Platitudes anyway, because I know she's read it. And thank you, Martin. Since Wendy's not here, you're now nominated Guardian of the Chat. But it looks like everybody's popping off in here, so love it. It seems like we've got all of our cards set. I don't see anybody that I'm missing, unless you want to pop in the chat and say, hey, loser, you forgot me. Can't you read? Don't say that, but you can think it. All right. So last week, when we did our Ponanigans, and for those of you who don't know, that's where our community is now writing Poe-inspired, Poe riffing. If it's gothic, dramatic, or based on Poe, and you've written it, send it to me. We're calling them Ponanigans. I will read them on book club, and also with the dispatch, we're doing... I'm still working on it. I have so many things, but I have been making sure I get them posted on the book club pages, but I am going to start having like a section just for Ponanigans where I can, like, if you're looking for Ponanigans, click there and you'll see all the stuff that all of the different citizens, like Brandon's Telltale Fart. But yes, mine is a take on my absolute favorite. Yeah, I think it is my favorite. It's The Cask of Amontillado. And I have decided to call it the Department of Decommissioned Platitudes. And we'll find out what happens. So, case file. The Department of Decommissioned Platitudes. Oh, and it's cut off a little bit at the top, but it'll come back. It's like only a few sentences. Filed by S. Cordova. There exists, beneath the bunker, a corridor withheld from orientation materials. This is not because it's dangerous. The department has maintained an exemplary safety record for decades. Discounting, of course, the regrettable incident involving motivational typography. After which, certain improvements to visitor procedures were deemed prudent. Rather, it remains absent from the official tour because most citizens arrive seeking directions, weather reports, or administrative clarification. See, those lights are got me even with my hat on. Or administrative clarification concerning the ordinary operations of self-help. And it would be unnecessarily overwhelming to begin with the department. One ought to earn it. I was reminded of this only recently while enjoying the peculiar anthropology of Substack, where one may reliably discover a gentleman announcing that he has, after considerable optimization and a modest quantity of downloadable resources, uncovered the final secret to happiness. They appear with admirable regularity, usually beneath photographs of immaculate desks and cups of coffee cooling beside the books they have summarized rather than read. This particular specimen introduced himself with enviable efficiency. I help people optimize authentic productivity. How fortunate, I thought. I have always admired those who devote themselves so completely to impossible occupations. Is that? Oops. He continued, quite cheerfully, to explain that fiction has ceased to interest him some years ago. because it lacked actionable outcomes. Essays were acceptable, provided they contained bullet points. Books were best consumed through summaries. Podcasts at double speed or tastefully designed carousels, since one need not spend several days wandering through a novel when another person had already extracted its useful components. We're gonna have to do a little side tilt because the lights on this side are getting me because I'm looking at this side. I listened with genuine interest. It is important in my position to allow people sufficient time to identify their own niche. How fascinating, I replied once he had concluded. You simply must allow me to show you something. Rebbe! Welcome to Begrudging Book Club. Sorry, I usually wouldn't just stop like that, but I'm excited to see her. Let's get you your card. And we're starting with my Ponanigan that I didn't get to read last week. And then we'll get to the bitch boy. Yours is, this is for you, Chaos Mitigation. Pretend your aura has limited data. Save emotional bandwidth. Save it, girly. Don't let them have it. Okay. Back to business. Yes, how fascinating, I replied once you concluded. You simply must allow me to show you something. His expression brightened with precisely the enthusiasm I had anticipated. I would love to. I rather thought you might. The entrance is easily overlooked. Most visitors assume the bunker concludes after the recording studio. The more inquisitive occasionally discover Lucian's weather office or the archive reading room, where generations of dispatches continue to accumulate with dignified patience. Fewer still notice the narrow blue door at the end of the eastern corridor, largely because it possesses the excellent manners to resemble a maintenance closet. Appearances have been among the department's preferred filing systems. The lock yielded with the agreeable certainty of something that had been expecting us. Beyond it, the bunker continued, though only in the most technical sense. Concrete surrendered by slow degrees to dressed stone. The ceiling lowered so imperceptibly that one scarcely noticed until the idea of standing upright had become a privilege rather than an assumption, and the electric fixtures disappeared altogether. You'll notice that we do not use you notice we continue to use candles, I observed as I lit the first of them. No electricity? Oh, there's electricity. He looked around the corridor. Then, why? The fluorescent lighting was found to encourage optimism. He laughed. I did not. After a moment, neither did he. We continued beneath the arches, blackened softly with age, their stone polished not by neglect, but by generations of careful passage. Brass directory plaques caught candlelight with quiet dignity. Somewhere, further below, unseen drawers closed with the patient confidence of an institution that had never once doubted its own necessity. We continued beneath the arches. At length, we arrived before a pair of oak doors, upon which a single plaque had been mounted with extraordinary care. The Department of Decommissioned Platitudes, Archives Division, authorized personnel, and escorted visitors only. He regarded it a considerable time. I've never heard of this. No, I said pleasantly. Most people have not. I opened the doors. Silence greeted us. Not the silence of emptiness, but of extraordinary organization. The silence of libraries is industrious. The silence of churches asks something of the soul. The silence of forests suggests one has wandered farther than originally intended. This silence belonged to an archive. It possessed the reassuring confidence of a place that had already cataloged every question worth asking and was in no particular hurry to answer any of them. The chamber stretched beyond the reach of candlelight. Oak cabinets rose from floor to ceiling, interrupted only by narrow aisles of walls of carefully mortared stone. Thousands of niches had been built into those walls, each in identical proportion, each sealed with a brick face polished smooth by time, and each bearing a brass plaque engraved in the same immaculate hand. There is a particular expression people wear when they are trying to decide whether they have entered a museum or made a catastrophic mistake. He wore it beautifully. There must be thousands. There are, and they contain things that once promised certainty. I retrieved a visitor pamphlet from the reception desk, a handsome little booklet bound in charcoal stock with silver lettering, and placed it in his hand. Drunken set piece, when did you sneak in here? Let's get you your card. Boundaries. You are allowed to be unavailable, even to guilt. Auto reply, nope. Alright, so yeah, we've got our little visitor's guide. The 9th revised edition, by the way. We have found that first-time visitors appreciate a map. He accepted it without looking away from the walls. Why keep them? I smiled. An excellent question. And the answer? Comes rather late in the tour, I'm afraid. Convenient. Greetings, Brian Patrick. Let's get your card. You've got chaos mitigation. You're not antisocial. You're selectively peaceful. Schedule solitude like therapy. We're just finishing up my ponanigan before we get to our bitch boy roasting. It's called The Department of Decommissioned Platitudes, and it is my take on the cask of Amontillado. Dave Wise. Oh, I've not had a chance to check out your wood art yet. It's one of those things. But let's get you your card. Ha! You've got chaos mitigation. The world's on fire. Compliment someone's shoes. Civility as spell work. Okay. So, where are we? Yes, why keep them? I smiled. An excellent question. And the answer? Comes rather late in the tour, I am afraid. Convenient. We have found that anticipation improves retention. I invited him onward, beginning, as I always do, with productivity. It is an excellent introductory collection because nearly everyone recognizes something there, and almost no one enjoys explaining why. The gallery opened beneath a vaulted ceiling, its walls given over to orderly rows of sealed niches. Some plaques had darkened with age until the lettering seemed to emerge from the metal itself. Others shone with the unmistakable brightness of recent acquisition. The 5 a.m. Club, transferred following repeated misuse as a moral virtue. Grind while they sleep, retired after prolonged exposure to exhaustion. No 0 days. Condition unstable. Access by appointment only. He studied them one after another, waiting, I think, for the wall to confess that it was joking. These are ideas. You are settling in beautifully. There comes a moment during every tour when a visitor ceases looking for the hidden cameras and begins entertaining the possibility that the department has simply existed all along. One recognizes the transition not by what they ask, by what they stop asking. Questions of plausibility quietly surrender to questions of procedure. It is always a pleasure to witness. The second chamber belonged to authenticity, a smaller division that had expanded so violently after the invention of personal branding that several adjoining walls had been requisitioned without notice. Here, the plaques grew more specific, then more defensive, until every declaration of radical individuality appeared to have been issued from the same approved template. In an open niche, awaiting processing, stood 3 framed prints. Live, laugh, love. Each had been wrapped individually in archival tissue. Beside them rested a trowel. I wrote this and I still can't read. Beside them rested a trowel, fresh mortar, and a clipboard. You those into the wall? Eventually. They are only signs. They are. Then why preserve them? I adjusted one corner of the tissue paper where it had folded upon itself. We preserve everything. Even the failures? Especially the failures. It would be terribly irresponsible to pretend they never existed. Greetings, Wendy. I need make it. And you are not a failure, but I find it funny that that's when we were talking about failures earlier today, and now I'm reading about failures, and you show up. You've got move, flail elegantly, call it interpretive healing. You are a pro at that. All right. Only when the paper lay properly did I continue. By then, he had begun holding the visitor guide with both hands. The third and oldest division lay behind acquisitions, where departmental notice requested that all absolute certainty be left with reception and advised that claim tickets could be redeemed upon demonstrated nuance. The corridor narrowed as we descended. Mortar darkened almost to black. Even the candles appeared older, though I appreciate that such a statement lacks technical precision. Some places possess age not merely as chronology, but as atmosphere. At the far end stood a single open niche. It had been prepared with exquisite care. A brick rested upon folded linen, fresh mortar waited in a shallow basin. The trowel gleamed. He slowed. What goes there? I regarded the empty space with considerable affection. The final secret to happiness. He looked at me, then at the niche. I thought you said it was here. It will be shortly. You do not already have it? Oh, we have dozens. Different titles, same promise. The department abandoned cataloging such works by author or publisher long ago. Those details having proved less reliable than the assertion itself. The final answer, the complete system, the missing piece, the morning routine that changes everything. Each arrives declaring itself the conclusion of a search whose continuation is, unfortunately, essential to the business model. He did not laugh. This, I felt, represented meaningful progress. There remained one chamber. Visitors seldom appreciate it at once, but appreciation is not required for accurate processing. Above its narrow entrance, a brass plaque bore the words, Observation Ward, Mirror Division. What is observed? He asked. Us. His smile arrived late and left early. Very funny. I looked at him. I was not attempting humor. Something in his posture changed then. Only slightly. Enough. The room beyond contained no niches, shelves, or cabinets. Its walls had been left deliberately bare, save for a mirror occupying the far end. The frame was simple oak, worn smooth by hands that had no business touching mirrors as often as they evidently had. Before it stood a narrow table. Upon the table rested a black marker, a folded cloth, and a small brass placard. He read the placard aloud. No philosophy may claim universal applicability. His voice echoed more than seemed architecturally necessary. I saw that rule upstairs. Yes. This is where it came from? This is where it keeps coming from. The candlelight shifted across the glass, and beneath his reflection there appeared the pale residue of sentences written and erased by previous visitors. This works for everyone. You only have to want it enough. There is no excuse. Their removal had been thorough, but certainty leaves a mark when pressed too firmly. Then he stared at them. Then, inevitably, at himself. What is the marker for? Most people arrive here expecting another answer, I said. They leave with handwriting. What am I supposed to write? The limit of your promise. For the first time since we met, he had nothing prepared. I waited. The department is old. It has no objection to silence, and neither have I. At last, he uncapped the marker. His hand hovered near the mirror while the archive continued its work beyond the walls. Drawers opening and closing with steady administrative calm. When he finally wrote, The letters were smaller than I expected. It may not work for everyone. He stepped back from the mirror as though the sentence he had written had detached itself from the glass and advanced upon him. And now? I folded the cloth neatly over the marker, restored to both their appointed places upon the table, and regarded his reflection for one final moment before turning toward the door. Now, I said, we complete the accession. The accession? The department has observed that ideas surrender their authority more readily once those who carried them have done the same. He frowned, though whether at the sentence or at his own inability to immediately classify it, I could not say. I held the door open and inclined my head towards the corridor. If you would. He followed me. They always do. We retraced our way through the narrow passage where the candle flames leaned faintly beneath a draught too old to have originated from any ordinary ventilation system. The archive continued its unseen labor beyond the walls. Drawers opened, hinges sighed. Somewhere in the dark, stone answered stone with a low and measured sound, as though another corridor were being extended beneath us by hands too patient to require witness. When we reached the final chamber, the open niche remained exactly as we had left it. The basin of mortar rested upon the floor, its smooth surface and gray beneath the candlelight. The folded linen had not shifted. The trowel beside it, with the composed gleam of an instrument awaiting a familiar task. Nothing had changed. Nothing, perhaps, except the man standing beside me. His attention settled upon the new brass plaque fixed to the stone. Optimize authentic productivity. Final claim received. Universal application denied. I do not understand. No, I said. Most people do not. Understanding has never been a prerequisite for certainty. He moved closer to the plaque, bending toward it as though some smaller inscription might reveal itself, if only he approached with sufficient concentration. In doing so, he placed one foot within the recess, then the other. The niche received him without ceremony. He looked over the masonry, assessing its dimensions with the reflexive interest of a man who had spent years evaluating spaces, schedules, habits, and human beings according to their potential for improvement. It's deeper than it appeared. Most things are when one finally enters them. He glanced back at me. The smile he produced was serviceable, though it lacked the polish of the one he had worn above ground. What was this designed to hold? Certainty. That is not an answer. It has proved sufficient for departmental purposes. He turned again, running his gaze along the dark interior walls. The niche had been constructed with considerable precision, though not, I admit, with comfort foremost in mind. Its width permitted an upright posture and little else. Its depth allowed the occupant to stand entirely within the stone while remaining near enough to the opening for conversation. Such proportions are not accidental. He placed one hand against the wall. The stone is damp. The lower archive has always suffered from an excess of atmosphere. He laughed. but the sound traveled strangely through the recess and returned to him thinner than it had departed. I bent and took up the trowel. Steel passed through mortar with a low, deliberate scrape. He looked over his shoulder. "What are you doing?" "The accession," I reminded him. I spread the first bed of mortar across the threshold with the care such work demands. Masonry, like doctrine, is most dangerous when laid carelessly. A weakness concealed in the first course will announce itself eventually, though often only after the entire structure has been built upon it. He watched as I selected the first brick. For several moments, his expression remained arranged around the assumption that some explanatory flourish must be forthcoming. When none arrived, the corner of his mouth drew upward once more. Very elaborate. The department has never favored temporary solutions. I placed the brick into the mortar and pressed it gently into position. A small quantity of gray paste rose along its edges. I removed the excess with the trowel, smoothed the joint, and tested the line before continuing. His laugh came again, quieter now. "This is part of the experience, I assume." "No." The word did not echo. This seemed to trouble him more than if it had. I laid another measure of mortar and fitted the second brick beside the first. The trowel tapped lightly against the stone as I corrected its alignment. It was a modest sound, almost domestic in its regularity, and yet the chamber seemed to gather itself around each repetition. Scrape, press, tap, smooth. He shifted within the niche. There was nowhere meaningful to move. "You've made your point. I have not yet finished making it." His eyes moved from my hands to the rising course of brickwork, then the corridor beyond me. The candle flame stood between him and the stairway like a procession already assembled for his departure. "You cannot mean to seal this." I examined the joint before me and found it slightly uneven. Correcting it required only the width of a fingernail. But one must not permit urgency in another person to compromise one's professional standards. He spoke my name. Then again. The second time, it sounded less like an address and more like an appeal. I continued working. He laughed once more, though by then amusement had entirely abandoned it. Laughter often lingers after its purpose has expired. It mistakes repetition for protection. "You are joking." I checked the level. Perfect. Only then did I raise my eyes to him. "You asked earlier why we preserve these things?" His attention dropped to the wall between us. It had not yet risen high enough to restrain him, though this appeared to offer him less comfort than one might expect. I did. The department has received many answers to that question over the years. Some speak of historical responsibility, others invoke caution, institutional memory, or the moral necessity of retaining evidence of collective error. All are defensible, none are entirely false. Still, there are moments when precision is preferable to ceremony. Because people keep mistaking them for medicine. For a moment, only the only sound in the corridor was the settling of mortar. Then his watch vibrated. A bright, pleasant chime rang against the stone and passed through the chamber with the delicate persistence of a small bell in a crypt. He looked down by instinct. Time to stand! I could not help admiring the timing. How thoughtful, I said. The department has always encouraged good posture. His breathing had changed. The device upon his wrist noticed this before he did and illuminated again. Though, whatever warning it offered was lost beneath the scrape of the trowel as I prepared the next course. He spoke once more. I regret that I cannot say what he said. By then, I had already begun smoothing the mortar. And there we have it. I took toxic positivity down into the bunker and bricked that bitch up. Alright. So I'm going to need to switch this. Okay. Oh, thank you guys. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, it's 10:46, so we definitely have time for something else. Okay, so those are those. These are the ones for that. And then I think, are we back? Ah, we're back. Okay. So let me check and make sure we don't have anybody who needs their card before I get to this. Okay. Now, looks like we're all caught up. So now, to the Poe. Gosh, it's kind of dark over here because I redid my setup. Thought it might be better for me to have the microphone where I'm reading. I feel like every week it's something new, but I think I know what I'm doing here. If not, we'll just pretend. Alright. So, Brandon's not here, but I've got my highlighter. Keeps me straight, even if it doesn't work for him. Yeah, Bernice, I think, is where we're going. Gotta keep it creepy. Oh, I already see. I guess, like, my proportions for my computer screen and the proportions for the book are not as great as I want them to be. Alright, whatever. Page 18. Bunnies. I think I might have to. This might be the best we're getting on book club today since I had to switch everything over. Oh, of course. I don't even know. That looks Latin. Okay. Dissebant mihi sodales si sepulchrum amicae visitarum curas mesas aliquantulum for elevatas. What the hell kind of witchcraft did I just say? My companions told me I might find some little alleviation of my misery in visiting the grave of my beloved. I knew it. Dead bitch story. Love it. Sorry. Misery is manifold. The wretchedness of earth Yes, that's what I'm saying, Iker. I sound like I just summoned something for sure. Okay. Misery is manifold. The wretchedness of earth is multiform, overreaching the wide horizon as the rainbow. Its hues are as various as the hues of that arch, as distinct, too, yet as intimately blended. Overreaching the wide horizon as the rainbow. How is that? From beauty, I have derived a type of unloveliness. From the covenant of peace, a simile of sorrow, but, as in ethics, evil is a consequence of good. So, in fact, out of joy, sorrow is born. Either the memory of past bliss is the anguish of today, or the agonies of which are have their origins in the ecstasies which might have been. My baptismal name is Aegeus. That's what we're going with. That of my family I will not mention. Yet there are no towers in the land more time-honored than my gloomy, gray, hereditary halls. Our line has been called a race of visionaries. A race of visionaries? And in many striking particulars, in the character of the family mansion, in the frescoes of the chief saloon, in the tapestries of the dormitories, in the chiseling of some buttress in the armory, but more especially in the gallery of antique paintings, in the fashion of the library chamber, and lastly, in the very peculiar nature of the library's contents. There is more than sufficient evidence to warrant this belief. The recollections of my earliest years are connected with that chamber, and with its volumes, of which latter I will say no more. Here died my mother. Herein I was born, but it is mere idleness to say that I have not lived before, that the soul had no previous existence. You deny it? Let us not argue the matter. Convinced myself, I seek not to convince. There is, however, a remembrance of aerial forms, of spiritual and meaning eyes. I think we're gonna see if I can get this a little bit out of the way, because it's messing up how I read. Meaning of eyes, sounds, musical yet sad, a remembrance which will not be excluded, a memory like a shadow, vague, variable, indefinite, unsteady, and like a shadow. Two, in the impossibility of my getting rid of it while the sunlight of my the sunlight of my reason shall exist. In that chamber was I born, thus awaking from the long night of what had seemed, but was not, non-entity. Ooh, is this ghost story a non-entity? At once into the very regions of fairyland, into a palace of imagination, into the wild dominions of monastic thought and erudition. It is not a singular that I gazed around me with a startled and ardent eye, that I loitered away my boyhood in books and dissipated my youth in reverie. But it is singular that as years rolled away and the noon of manhood found me still in the mansion of my fathers, it is wonderful what stagnation there fell upon the springs of my life. Wonderful how total an inversion took place in the character of my commonest thought. The realities of the world affected me as visions, and as visions only, while the wild ideas of the land dreams became, in turn, not the material of my everyday existence, but in the very deed that existence utterly and solely in itself. Why must you suck so much? I feel like you guys can't read that. Oh, it definitely moved. That's what's going on here. There we go. Better. Permissible. Okay. Bernice and I were cousins, and we grew up together in my paternal halls. Yet differently we grew. I, ill of health and buried in gloom. She, agile, graceful, and overflowing with energy. Hers, the ramble on the hillside. Mine, the studies of the cloister. I, living within my own heart, and addicted body and soul to the most intense and painful meditation. She, roaming carelessly through life, with no thought of the shadows in her path, or the silent flight of the raven-winged hours. Bernice! I call upon her name. Bernice! And from the gray ruins of memory, 1,000 tumultuous recollections are startled at the sound. Ah! Vividly is her image before me now, as in the early days of her lightheartedness and joy. Oh, gorgeous yet fantastic beauty! O sylph amid the shrubberies of Arnheim! O naiad among its fountains! And then all its misery, all is mystery and terror, and a tale which should not be told. Disease, a fatal disease, fell like simoon upon her frame, and even while I gazed upon her, the spirit of change swept over her, pervading her mind, her habits, and her character, and, in a manner the most subtle and terrible, disturbing even the identity of her person. Alas! The destroyer came and went, and the victim, where is she? I knew her not, or knew her no longer as Bernice. Among the numerous train of maladies superinduced by that fatal and primary one, which effected a revolution of so horrible a kind in the moral and physical being of my cousin, may be mentioned as the most distressing and obstinate in its nature. A species of epilepsy not unfrequently terminating in trance itself. Trance very nearly resembling positive dissolution, and from which her manner of recovery was in most instances startlingly abrupt. In the meantime, my own disease, for I have been told that I shall call it by no other appellation, my own disease, then, grew rapidly upon me, and assumed a final monomaniac character of a novel and extraordinary form, hourly and momently gaining vigor, and, at length, obtaining over me the most incomprehensible ascendancy. This monomania, if I must so term it, consisted in a morbid irritability, and of those properties of the mind in the metaphysical science termed the attentive. It is more than probable that I am not misunderstood, or that I am not understood. But I fear, indeed, that it is no manner possible to convey the mind of the merely general reader an adequate idea of that nervous intensity of interest with which, in my case, the powers of meditation, not to speak technically, This guy busied and buried themselves in the contemplation of even the most ordinary objects of the universe. To muse for long, unwearied hours, with my attention riveted to some frivolous device on the margin, or in the typography of a book, to become absorbed for the better part of a summer's day, in a quaint shadow falling aslant upon the tapestry or upon the floor, to lose myself for an entire night in watching the steady flame of a lamp or the embers of a fire, to dream away whole days over the perfume of a flower, to repeat monotonously some common word until the sound, by dint of frequent repetition, ceased to convey any idea whatever to the mind, to lose all sense of motion or physical existence by all means of absolute bodily quiescence, long and obstinately preserved in. Such were a few of the most common and least pernicious vagaries induced by a condition of the mental faculties, not indeed altogether unparalleled, but certainly bidding defiance to anything like analysis or explanation. Yet, let me not be misapprehended. Oh, greetings, sacred storylines. I was actually just debating on if I wanted to stop and rant on this cousin-loving, meditation, ruining douche. Let's get you your card. Ooh. Move. Oh, it's your first time here? Well, Begrudging Book Club. We read Poe. We roast Poe. We draw cards. And yours is stretch before your spine files for divorce. Breathe like it's foreplay. All right. Back at it. Oh, my fan blew my pages. Okay. Yet, let me not be misapprehended. The undue, earnest, and morbid attention thus excited by objects, in their own nature frivolous, must not be confounded in character with that ruminating propensity common to all mankind. And more especially, yes, he's talking about how he meditates, but it's not meditation. It's above meditation. And it's being attentive. And it's deep meditation. It's monk business, but he's acting like he's special. Because that's what bitch boys do. Indulged by the persons of ardent imagination, it was not even, as might be at first supposed, an extreme condition. Oh, it's the left side of the book that's going to struggle, of course. Or exaggeration of such propensity, but primarily and essentially distinct and different. In the one instance, the dreamer, or enthusiast, being interested in an object usually not frivolous, imperceptibly loses sight of this object in a wilderness of deductions and suggesting issuing therefrom, until the conclusion of a daydream, often replete with luxury, he finds the incitamentum, or first cause of his musings, entirely vanish and forgotten. In my case, the primary object was invariably frivolous, although assuming, through the medium of my distempered vision, a refracted and unreal importance. Few deductions, if any, were made, and though few pertinaciously returning in the original object as center, the meditations were never pleasurable. course not. How can growth be pleasurable? That's what he's getting at. And also, how is being haunted by my ghost cousin I'm hot for? That shouldn't be pleasurable much either. The meditations were never pleasurable. And at the termination of the reverie, the first cause, so far from being out of sight, had attained that supernaturally exaggerated interest, which was the prevailing feature of the disease. In a word, the powers of the mind, more particularly exercised, were, with me, as I have said before, the attentive, and are, with the daydreamer, the speculative. Yes, so apparently, if you meditate like an attentive, that's where it's at. And if you're speculative, you're a daydreamer. You're wasting your mind. Sunrum, welcome. Glad you made it. Let's get you your card. Let's see Sunrum's vibe for today. Reframe. Healing is just chaos that learned punctuation. Full stop. Begin again. I'm put it in my pile of later Z's. Okay, we're reading Bernice by Poe, but I know you said you probably wouldn't be staying for too long. There we go. Oh God, I'm gonna have to read Latin again. I see it. That's always fun. My books, at this epoch, if they did not actually serve to irritate the disorder, partook. It will be perceived largely in their imaginative and inconsequential nature of the characteristic qualities of the disorder itself. I well remember, among others, the treatise of the noble Italian, Corellius Secundus Curio. Oh, no, it's Italian, okay. De amplitudine beati regni Dei. St. Austin's great work, The City of God, and Tertullian's De Carne Christi, in which the paradoxical sentence, here we go. Mortuus est de filius credible est quia ineptum est, et sepultus resurrexit certum est quia impossibile. We're done. Let's see what other summoning I just did. That the Son of God died is entirely believable, and simply because it seems so absurd that he would do so, that he rose from the dead is certain, simply because it is impossible to do so. Oh, so I just slandered the good Lord in Latin, or, somebody's good Lord. We won't. Greetings, Eros. I'm struggling through Latin and Italian as I read Bernice by Poe. Let's get you your card. Ooh. Free frame. Maybe the silver lining is just duct tape. It's still holding though. So we've got your vibe. Let's see if we can figure out Poe's vibe. Occupied by my undivided time for many weeks of laborious and fruitless investigation. Thus, it will appear that, shaken from its balance by only trivial things, my reason bore resemblance to that ocean crag spoken of by Ptolemy Hephaestion, which steadily resisting the attacks of human violence and the fiercer fury of the waters and winds, trembled only to the touch of the flower called asphodel. And although to a careless thinker It might appear a matter beyond doubt that the alteration produced by her unhappy malady in the moral condition of Bernice would afford the many objects for the exercise of that intense and abnormal meditation, whose nature I have been at some trouble in explaining, yet was not in any degree the case. Brandon! Where did you come from? There are people in book club. I'm just like... All right, let's get you your card. It's because of the way this is. I can kind of like see the chat going in my... All right. You've got soothe. Rest before the narrative demands it. Permission granted. None requested. Oh, you guys are here talking about body shots? My goodness. Okay. Bernice could afford her unhappy malady and the moral condition of Bernice would afford me many objects for the exercise of that intense and abnormal meditation whose nature I have been at some trouble in explaining. Yet, such was not in any degree the case. In the lucid intervals of my infirmity, her calamity indeed gave me pain, and taking deeply to heart that total wreck of her fair yet and gentle life, I did not fall to ponder frequently and bitterly upon the wonder-working means by which so strange a revolution had been suddenly brought to pass. But these reflections partook not of the idiosyncrasy of my disease, and were such as would have occurred under similar circumstances to the ordinary mass of mankind. True to his own character, my disorder reveled in the less important but more startling changes wrought in the physical frame of Bernice, in the singular and most appalling distortion of her personal identity. During the brightest days of her unparalleled beauty, oh yeah, by the way, this unparalleled beauty he's maybe not lusting over, it's his cousin. Most surely I had never loved her. In the strange anomaly of my existence, feelings with me had never been of the heart, and my passions were always were of the mind. Through the gray of the early morning, among the trellised shadows of the forest at noonday, and in the silence of my library at night, she had flitted by my eyes, and had I seen her, not as the living and breathing Bernice, but as the Bernice of a dream, not as the being of earth, earthy, but as the abstraction of such being, not as a thing to admire, but to analyze. Not as an object to love, but as the theme of the most abstruse through desultory speculation. And now, I shuddered in her presence, and grew pale at her approach, yet bitterly lamenting her fallen and desolate condition, I called to mind that she had loved me long, and in an evil moment, I spoke to her of marriage. I knew it. And at length, the period of our nuptials was approaching, when, of course, he's writing about his ghost cousin that he loved that died. I told you we were here for dead bitch vibes. I just didn't know it was like dead cousin, wished she was my wife vibes. All right, back to it. And at length, the period of our nuptials was approaching when, upon an afternoon in the winter of the year, one of those unseasonably warm, calm, and misty days, the inner apartment of the library, but uplifting my eyes, I saw that Bernice had stood before me. Was it my own excited imagination? Or the misty influence of the atmosphere? Or the uncertain twilight of the chamber? Or the gray draperies which fell around her figure that caused in so vacillating and indistinct an outline? I could not tell. She spoke no word, and I, not for worlds, could I have uttered a single syllable. An icy chill ran through my frame. A sense of insufferable anxiety oppressed me. A consuming curiosity pervaded my soul, and a sinking back upon the chair. I remained for some time breathless and motionless, with my eyes riveted upon her person. Alas! Its emaciation was excessive, and not one vestige of the former being lurked in any single line of the contour. My burning glances at length fell upon the face. The forehead was high and very pale, and singularly placid, and once the jetty hair fell partially over it and overshadowed the hollow temples with innumerable ringlets, now of a vivid yellow, and jarring discordantly in their fantastic character with the reigning melancholy of the countenance. The eyes were lifeless and lusterless, and seemingly pupilless, and I shrank involuntarily from their glassy stare to the contemplation of the thin and shrunken lips. They parted, and in a smile of peculiar meaning, the teeth of the changed Bernice disclosed themselves slowly to my view. Would to God that I had never beheld them, or that having done so, I had died. The shutting of a door disturbed me, and looking up, I found my cousin had departed from the chamber, but from the disordered chamber of my brain had not. Alas, departed and would not be driven away. The white and ghastly spectrum of the teeth. Not a speck on their surface, not a shade on their enamel, not an indenture in their edges. But what that period of her smile has sufficed to brand in upon my memory, I saw them now, even more unequivocally than I beheld them then. The teeth! The teeth! They were here, and there, and everywhere, and visibly and palpably before me. Long, narrow, excessively white, with the pale lips writhing about them, as in the very moment of their first terrible development. Then came the full fury of my monomania, and I struggled in vain against its strange and irresistible influence. In the multiplied objects of the external world, I had no thoughts but for the teeth. For these I longed with a frenzied desire. All other matters and all other interests became absorbed in their single contemplation. They alone were present to the mental eye, and they, in their sole individuality, became the essence of my mental life. The essence of my mental life. I think, Brandon, you missed my first highlighter one, but we're here. I think I'm gonna keep that. Where'd it go? Yes, the essence of my mental life. Oopsies. I held them in every light. I turned them in every attitude. I surveyed their characteristics. I dwelt upon their peculiarities. I pondered upon their conformation. I mused upon the alteration in their nature. I shuddered as I assigned to them in imagination a sensitive and sentient power. And even when unassisted by the lips... Oh, you guys are having fun in there. A capability of moral expression. Of Mademoiselle Salle, it had been well said, que tu sais pas étient de sémantique. That's like my fourth language in this. For as Jove, during the winter season, gives twice 7 days of warmth, men have called this element and temperate time the nurse of the beautiful halcyon. Wait, no, I've skipped a footmark. That was the one before. All her ballet steps were sediments. You could have said that. I feel like all her ballet steps were sediments or sentiments. Like, I still kind of like that. But whatever, fine. Make me read French. And of Bernice, I more seriously believed que tous ces dents étaient de ces, or étaient des idées. All of her teeth were ideas. Des idées. Ah! Here was the idiotic thought that destroyed me. Des idées. Ugh. Therefore, it was that I coveted them so madly. I felt that their possession alone could restore me to peace in giving me back to reason. Long gone, bro. And the evening closed in upon me, and then the darkness came, and tarried and went, and the day again dawned. In the midst of a second night were now gathering around, and I still sat motionless in that solitary room. Oh wow, my book's like a mess over here. I'm getting into it. That solitary room. And I still sat buried in meditation, and still the phantasma of the teeth maintained its terrible ascendancy. As meditation, as with the most vivid, hideous distinctness, it floated about amid the changing lights and shadows of the chamber. At length there broke in upon my dreams a cry as of horror and dismay, and thereunto, after a pause, succeeded the sound of troubled voices, intermingled with many low moanings of sorrow and pain. I arose from my seat, and, throwing open one of the doors of the library, saw standing out in the antechamber a servant maiden, all in tears, who told me that Bernice was no more. She had been seized. Wait. So, this is not a ghost. He was doing his meditation shit that he was like, I was too busy talking trash. Like, what? She had been seized with epilepsy in the early morning, and now, at the closing of the night, the grave was ready for its tenant, and all the preparations for the burial were completed. So, I mean, maybe it was a ghost? I don't know. He just went on about those teeth for far too long, and I'm still scrambled, but here we are. I found myself sitting in the library, and again, sitting there alone. It seemed that I'd newly awakened from a confused and exciting dream. I knew that it was now midnight, and I was well aware that since the setting of the sun, Bernice had been interred. But of that dreary period which intervened, I had no positive, at least no definite comprehension. Yet its memory was replete with horror. Horror more horrible from being vague. Yeah, I'm sorry, the more I'm thinking about this, he said 2 days. So at least, like, once she was, I don't know. I will finish reading this and then we're going to have to discuss. But Bernice had been interred, but of that, no positive at least. Yet its memory was replete with horror. Horror, more horrible from being vague, and terrible, more terrible from ambiguity. And it was a fearful page in the record of my my existence, written all over with dim and hideous and unintelligible recollections. I strived to decipher them, but in vain. While ever and anon, like the spirit of departed sound, the shrill and piercing shriek of a female voice seemed to be ringing in my ears. I had done a deed. What was it? I had asked myself the question, aloud, and whispering the echoes of the chamber answered me. What was it? On the table beside me burned a lamp, and near it lay a little box. It was of no remarkable character, and I had seen it frequently before, for it was the property of the family physician. But how it came there, upon my table, and why did I shudder in regarding it? These things were in no manner to be accounted for, and my eyes at length dropped to the open pages of a book, and to a sentence underscored therein. The words were singular but simple ones of the poet Ibn Zayat. Oh, I already read this. Dicant mihi sodalis si sepulchrum amicae visitarum curas meas aliquana tulum fore levatas. Why then, as I perused them, did the hairs of my head erect themselves on end, and the blood of my body become congealed within my veins? There came a light tap at the library door, and, pale as the tenant of the tomb, a menial entered upon tiptoe. His looks were wild with terror, and he spoke to me in a voice tremulous, husky, and very low. What said he? Some broken sentences I heard. He told of a wild cry disturbing the silence of the night, of the gathering together of the household, of a search in the direction of the sound. And then his tones grew thrillingly distinct as he whispered me of a violated grave, of a disfigured body, enshrouded, yet still breathing, still palpitating, still alive. Uh-oh. He pointed to garments. They were muddy and clotted with gore. I spoke not, and he took me gently by the hand. It was indented with the impress of human nails. He directed my attention to some object against the wall. I looked at it for some minutes. It was a spade. With a shriek, I bounded to the table and grasped the box that lay upon it. But I could not force it open, and in my tremor, it slipped from my hands and fell heavily and burst into pieces, and from it was a rattling sound, and there rolled out some instrument of dental surgery intermingled with 32 small white and ivory-looking substances that were scattered to and fro about the floor. Oh, man. Well, then. I think I gotta get back in the chat. Was it? I feel like somebody called necrophilia in the chat, and I think I think you might be right. Oh, okay. Well, there you have it, citizens. Bernice by Edgar Allan Poe. I don't think I saw any fresh citizens. Oh, but there's Ghost Dick. Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad you guys were having a good old time in the chat while I was reading. Sometimes it's hard for me. Like, I have to focus so hard on reading the words in front of me that I can't, like, focus on the story I'm actually reading. So I feel like I might have gotten a little bit more confused than normal. But we made it. Another fabulous Begrudging book club. Thank you, everyone, for coming, for participating, for hanging out with each other, helping all the new citizens get acquainted. Next week, we'll be back. And since we're at the end, we'll do a little housekeeping. There will be a self-help QVC. Martin helped me come up with the idea. And we're going to do a little bit more showing about what we've got here in self-help, like my Toxic Crown. We'll go through about our Begrudgingly Grateful anti-stress decks. I will probably, I have some affirmation decks printed out. It's going to be fun. And all of it is to help support the second production run that I have going on. And I'll have a link in there. If you want your own Begrudgingly Grateful deck, you can go and get one on the website at begrudginglygrateful.com. I have fewer than 15, maybe like a dozen-ish decks left that you can just buy. Or if you want to take part and help support the production run, you can go to the production page and you can buy your deck ahead of time. So that way, if I can get 100 pre-orders, then I can actually get a much larger order and start dropping prices and making the decks more accessible for other citizens. If you want, you can also get your own digital decks. I just started in my most recent post for the August production event. If you buy anything physical from the Begrudgingly Grateful Bazaar, you will get the Begrudgingly Grateful digital deck duo and a migration digital field kit that has like my little spite counts as motivation, like things that I take notes on or see. Like, I don't know if you guys know, I actually make those stupid pie charts I just think it's fun. And then we also have like maintenance logs. Oh, that one's super far away. But anyways, that's what we'll be talking about, all of that in Self-Help QVC. Or you can go check it out yourself. Sunroom's in here. We're actually going to be chatting tomorrow. I'm kind of excited about that because it's going to be a little bit different from my usual chats where I talk about me and what I do. We are going to talk about making it through brain damage. And I'm sure we're going to talk about all kinds of other things, but that is something that we want to talk about. I don't talk about it as much, but I do think that it's something that I do want to start talking about more, because I mean, you guys even see sometimes during book club, like, I have a hard time reading. Not because I don't know how to read, but because sometimes, like, doesn't matter. We can talk about all that later. We hit 90 minutes. I feel like 90 is the solid point for book club. 2 hours, a little too long. An hour, we can't always get like a decent amount of stuff done. But 90 minutes, I think, is the sweet spot. So we'll go ahead and close everything out. Thank you, citizens, again. Stay begrudging. Stay grateful. We're out. Maybe not yet, though.